What's going on, guys? My name is Kalen Vasher, and you are now tuned into another episode of the Kalen Vasher Show. As always, before we get started, just want to give a quick shout out to everybody listening. You guys are always much appreciated. Down below on the screen, as well as in the description box, are my links if you guys want to connect with me and talk about anything sports, basketball, football, hockey, lacrosse. I don't care. I'll talk about it all. And yeah, I know it's been a minute since y'all last got a video from me. It's been about a week. But on that tip, I really just didn't have too much to talk about. I know the playoffs were still going on. We had the Eastern Conference Finals going on. But, necessarily, I feel like I had got everything I needed to say out whenever it came to the Eastern Conference Finals. It was really, if I did make recaps and preview videos for the rest of the Eastern Conference Finals, it was just going to be a bunch of recapping what happened like during the game. And I feel like I necessarily didn't want to talk too much about it. I would have rather talked about the whole series in a whole after it was over than just keep talking about who did what for each particular game. And so that's where we are. Today is June 1st. Game one of the NBA Finals is tonight. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm super excited to I feel like watch some carefree basketball, if that makes sense. And what I mean by carefree is just when you look at the landscape of not only the NBA, but in basketball in general, it's a narrative-driven sport. If you're coming up in high school, your name is what's going to push you through the rankings, or people that you know are what's going to push you through the rankings. Same thing with college. We see it with the Blue Bloods. Not saying that the Blue Bloods win every year, but usually when we're coming into the season and once we're getting into March Madness, it's all about the Blue Bloods. What's Kentucky going to do in the tournament? What's Duke going to do in the tournament? What's North Carolina going to do in the tournament? Like, I feel like it's narrative driven. And the same thing when it swings over to the NBA. Every year we're talking about whatever team LeBron's on. What are the Warriors doing? What is KD and Kyrie going to do this year? It's the same thing. And so I finally feel like for the first time in a while, we're going to be able to watch some narrative-free basketball. And I think it's going to be beautiful. It's just going to be pure hoops. You got guys out there that obviously love the game. And for me, it's also really cool to see a lot of guys with their opportunity to win their first NBA championship. Again, the past few years in the NBA, once we get to the playoffs and once we get to the finals, it's all about LeBron and what's his legacy going to look like, or it's all about Steph and what does he need to do to boost his legacy and get another NBA Finals MVP, or what is KD going to do? If KD gets a ring, what does that do for his legacy? So for us to finally just have pure hoops, I think bliss. I think both fan bases in Miami and Denver are solid fan bases. They don't do too much talking on Twitter. They don't do too much rowdiness going back and forth. I could be wrong, but just from the outside looking in, I feel like this is going to be a beautiful series. I feel like it's going to be beautiful basketball being played. And I'm excited. Again, Nikola Jokic has a chance to get his first ring. Jimmy Butler has a chance to get his first ring. And then also one thing that I wanted to point out was just the fact that I think it's going to be nice from a player's aspect to kind of see guys like Caleb Martin, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Michael Porter Jr., and Bruce Brown and guys like that, Aaron Gordon, to just step up and be able to contribute to a championship team without having to be quote unquote the guy. I know for a lot of these guys coming up through, high school, prep school, or college, you're always the guy. A lot of these guys were highly touted lottery picks. But as we know, not everybody can be the guy. There's 30 teams in the league. And if you had to say, there's about 30 superstars or 24 superstars, because you have your all-stars and stuff every year. So every guy can't be that guy, but every guy on a roster can't necessarily contribute to the cause of winning an NBA championship. And I think that that's been brought to the forefront all this year, especially from the Denver Nuggets side of the ball. I touched on it a little bit in the Western Conference Finals recap that I did, but guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, one of my favorite players in the league. And I've said it in 3 or 4 videos, and I'll continue to say it. And the one thing that I just really like about KCP's game is just the fact that, again, he doesn't have to be the main guy on the team to make a constant impact on the game. If his shot's not falling, you know what you're going to get defensively from him. You know that you're going to get effort from him. It seems like he makes the right plays. He makes the right passes. He makes the right reads. And then when the shot is falling, it's just a bonus. So for me, having a guy like KCP on my team would be a huge boost, just knowing that you can have somebody you can count on. And on the flip side, for the Miami Heat, you have a guy like Caleb Martin who's really boosted his play in the playoffs. And in my opinion, probably even should have got Eastern Conference Finals most valuable player. But that's neither here nor there. But again, like Caleb Martin, a guy that wasn't drafted, got waived by a few teams, was on some two-way contracts. And then fast forward to now, he, again, probably should have won an Eastern Conference Finals MVP, putting up monster games, monster point totals, monster rebound totals. And I think it's just great to see players be able to have an impact on the game without necessarily having to be the guy. Again, I'm somebody that's always rooting for people to succeed no matter who you are or where you're from. So for me, when I see guys like Caleb Martin play well, or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope play well, or just because I'm a Lakers fan, I can point it out, Austin Reeves play well, like that's one thing that really excites me, because I know as a former athlete and as a former basketball player, just the work that goes into it, just the work that, you know, not everybody sees. Everybody thinks that it's just get up, go to the arena, play a game, do your post-game exit interview, and get out of there. But, you know, nobody knows that, you know, you got to go home after the game, watch film on what you just learned, take it to practice, take it to walkthroughs, watch more film. The on-court work, everybody knows for itself. So just when I see things like that for guys that necessarily, quote-unquote, got it out the mud, it's beautiful for me. And I'm glad to see guys like that have an opportunity to get paid this offseason, have an opportunity to extend life and make their life a little bit easier for their families. So I can never be upset with that. Now, getting into the NBA Finals as a whole and predicting what I think the series is going to look like, it's tough, man, because, again, it's just pure hoops. There's one side of me that really wants to go strong into the Denver Nuggets just because of the way that they've been playing this entire postseason. Nikola Jokic has been absolutely tremendous, absolutely incredible, basically this entire postseason run. So I think that it would be cool to see him get his first ring, kind of like what we saw with Giannis Antetokounmpo a few years ago whenever he got his first ring. As much as I wanted to see the Suns win and have the Suns have their glory, I was super, super excited to see Giannis finally get his first ring. And it's kind of a similar situation when we're going into the finals this year with Denver. Right now, I feel like that there's no question in my mind that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA, just off of the simple fact of the way that he's been able to play in this postseason run. A lot of times, you know, we have guys in the NBA and they're superstars in the regular season. They play well in the regular season, and they might even have a few breakout playoff games, but you never see the consistent amount of play from superstars as much as, you know, you do from the guys that are in the GOAT conversation, like your LeBrons, like your Steph Currys, like your Michael Jordans, Kobe Bryants. And so I feel like that was a problem that we have been seeing from Nikola Jokic in past few years. He had played well, but he wasn't winning enough. You know, whether that was last year when Jamal Murray was hurt, I get all that. But, you know, he had been in the playoffs before. They had been a perennial playoff contending team, but could never seem to put it all together, whether that be from Jokic's standpoint of view or injuries or whatever, you know, it comes down to, because at the end of the day, this is a health situation. Whatever team is the healthiest, we saw it in the Eastern Conference Finals with Jason Tatum going down. We saw it in a few past series with a few players going down, like Joel Embiid missing a few games. But, you know, again, availability is your best availability. So I'm really excited to see what we can get from Jokic this year, because, again, we haven't seen him play to this level of basketball in the playoffs for a consistent, you know, playoff run. And now we've seen it. We've seen him averaging close to 30. We've seen him averaging close to 15 rebounds to go along with 12 assists or whatever it is. And so to finally see him kind of solidify and put himself into that conversation where you go from late second round pick to making a name for yourself in the league, to becoming one of the better up-and-coming young players, to moving on to making all-star teams, to where now your peers are looking at you around the league, he's really nice, to MVP conversation, to winning an MVP. And then from there, you kind of get stagnant. A lot of guys either go from that MVP level and they go down, they hit their ceiling, or they continue to ascend. And for a while, it looked like he was just going to be a perennial MVP candidate, which there's nothing wrong with that. Anytime that you're in the conversation to be the best player in the NBA or in the NBA every single season, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when you see guys like your Stephs, your LeBrons, your James Hardens, when you get guys like that and they're able to continue to ascend and to continue to rise their stock, then the conversation changes. Then the narrative changes, because now you're no longer going from, is he the best player in the NBA? Is he the best player that we've seen recently? Is he the best player we've seen in the past 5 years, 10 years? Now we're getting into all-time talks. Is he top 75? Is he top 50? Where does he rank among centers? Where does this postseason run rank amongst guys like Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain and Dirk Nowitzki? Like, we get into just a whole nother stratosphere of talking about NBA players once they continue to ascend past MVP level. And I think that with the ring this year, Jokic has a chance to solidify himself in one of the best big men of all time, which in my eyes, he already is. In the eyes of a lot of people, he already is. But, for it to become a given and for us to not even have the conversation at all, I think a championship will do a lot for him this year. Moving on to the Miami Heat side of things, again, I can say that I didn't think they were going to be here. Back in 2020 in the bubble, I was recording the podcast at the time on voice memo, so I'll have to see if I can find it, and I'll probably try and upload the clip. But I was literally talking about the fact that I feel like the Miami Heat had a chance to win the NBA Finals in 2020. I just like the way that they matched up with teams like the Bucks and the Celtics, who they were playing in their playoff run. So I was really excited for them in 2020. Coming into this year, I thought that they would get into the playoffs, especially after having a year where they were coming off of being the number one seed in the Eastern Conference and literally being a jump shot away from the finals. I thought for sure that they would be back. And so, but I can't say that I saw them in the NBA Finals. I can't even say that I saw them in the Eastern Conference Finals. I thought for sure that they just didn't have enough talent. They just didn't have enough guys because, again, that's how this league rolls. You usually have your two star players and a bunch of good role players centered around those two that fits their style. We see it with the Nuggets. We see it with not too much with the Suns because they gave away a lot of their young guys, but I could see the Suns again running it back next year and having a lot more success. The Mavericks tried to go that way. The Bucks are going that way. Of course, you have teams like the Lakers, the Celtics try. So that's really, the Clippers. Really, that's the key. You have your two main guys, and we're going to build around them too. So for Miami, when you have a guy that's your main dude and it's Jimmy Butler, again, I don't think Jimmy Butler is necessarily an MVP candidate, top 5 to 7 player in the league, but he's still a really, really good player. So again, if you already don't have one of those top 5 to 7 to maybe even 10 guys, then it's really tough for you to win in this league. So for them to come from where they came from, they lost their first play-in game, to bouncing back, winning against the Bulls, getting into the playoffs, and starting to win consecutively, winning really good fashion, playing really good team basketball. I think that just speaks volumes to Heat culture, the culture that not only Eric Spoelstra is built over there, but Pat Riley has been building over there for the past 30, 40 years or however long he's been involved with the organization. And I'm super excited as a whole. I know a lot of people talk about how boring this finals is going to be and how bad the ratings are going to be, but and I'm not saying that that's necessarily all the way wrong. Of course, there are people that are going to tune off because their favorite players aren't here. Steph isn't here. LeBron isn't here. Paul George isn't here. Kawhi isn't here. Kevin Durant isn't there. It's just a fact. But I do think that the NBA is also going to broaden their stance on what a superstar player is and what basketball is as a whole. Again, I put out a TikTok video a few years ago talking about how I thought Nikola Jokic was one of the most boring players in the NBA. Fast forward to a year later, and now that I got this podcast and I'm watching a lot more basketball and actually not just watching my favorite players and teams, your perspective broadens on what it means to be an entertaining basketball player, to what basketball or what kind of basketball is entertaining. And that's something I had to learn. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people have the chance to learn starting tonight. Nikola Jokic, Jimmy Butler are guys that aren't necessarily the quickest, the fastest. They don't jump the highest. But especially with a guy like Jimmy Butler, you can just tell that they have love for the game. And I feel like that's a skill set that not a lot of players have. Paul George touched on it in his podcast that there was a lot of players in the NBA that aren't necessarily good and that don't necessarily love the game. And I feel like when you have a player like Jimmy Butler, and really when you have the entire Miami Heat team, they all just seem like, regardless of what y'all think, Jimmy Butler even said it in an interview, regardless of what y'all think, we don't care if y'all think we're the underdogs. We haven't cared, and we're still not going to care. I think that just speaks volume to, again, not only himself, but the entire Heat culture. And then same thing, vice versa with the Denver Nuggets. You have guys like Nikola Jokic who don't care too much about the off-the-court stuff, who don't care about what some of these talking heads are saying on ESPN or on Fox Sports or whatever the case may be. Their main focus is just getting out there, playing the game that they love, being able to feed their families, provide for their families, and go home. And again, I've said it, this is kind of the whole memo for the episode this week or for today, but it's just the fact that we're going to get pure hoops. We're going to get pure hoops every night on TV, or every night that we are able to watch an NBA Finals game. We won't have to deal with what does this mean for LeBron's legacy if he loses, or what does this mean for Steph Curry's legacy if he wins. Like, we're not going to have to deal with any of that. We're just going to be able to watch good, solid basketball between guys that love the game. Really, really good coaches. I'm excited to see some of the adjustments that some of the coaches make after tonight, as well as even just going in, because for a guy like Eric Spoelstra, being able to game plan for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the Celtics is a way different game plan than what you're going to have to do with Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. How are they going to play Bam? How are they going to play Nikola Jokic? How is the switching going to work? How are they going to play him once he's at the low block? What are you going to do for a guy like Michael Porter Jr. that's 6'10", can shoot over everybody? So I'm really excited to see the adjustments that both coaches make. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really, really good final series. If I had to give my prediction right now, I'm going to go game by game because I did it last year in the NBA Finals, so I'll do it again this year in the NBA Finals. So game by game, game one in Denver, I think the Denver Nuggets walk away with a victory tonight in game one. Game two, surprisingly, as much as I want or as much as I think Denver will be able to win both games at home, game two, going to have to give it to Miami, and they still won. And we head back to Miami tied 1-1. Going into game three, I think Miami makes really good adjustments again, and they somehow, in a really, really close game, could even be at the buzzer game, Miami pulls out game three. Game four, to prevent them from going down 3-1, Jamal Murray steps up. We're tied 2-2 going back to Denver. In Denver, Denver wins again to go up 3-2. We go back to Miami, and this is where it gets tough for me. Because like with a lot of series, it always comes down to game 6 or 7. That's just the way that the NBA is. You rarely, it happens, but you rarely see sweeps in the NBA Finals. You rarely see teams getting blown out in 5. So for game 6, back in Miami, I think Jimmy gives it all he has. I think it's the Miami Heat give it all they have. And, just for sake of us having an excellent series, I'll give it to the Miami Heat, and we head back to Denver for 7, where Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets pull it out in 7. But at the same time, I could also see this series going 5 or 6, or maybe even less than a 4-game sweep with just how dominant Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic have been during this playoff run, especially the way that they looked against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. So really two tails of the tape on what we could see out of the NBA Finals this year. But early prediction, I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Nuggets at 7. But I could also see it going 5-4. Basically, I just want to say that I'm one of those people that does not have Miami winning this series. I think right now their percentage on winning the series is like 89-11 underdogs or something like that. So I'm going to stick with that. I don't know if they're that much of an underdog. Like I said, I do think that they'll be able to steal game 2. But I do feel like they still lose the series ultimately just because the Nuggets have the best player in the NBA right now. So that's where I see the NBA Finals heading and going. Nikola Jokic Finals MVP, of course. And yeah, man, of course, game 1 tonight. Really excited. And we'll just have to see what happens. So transitioning on, that would usually be where I end the video, but I wanted to get into it just a tad bit because someone reminded me last night that I might wanted to talk about it. But Shannon Sharpe is leaving Undisputed. He reached a contract buyout agreement with Undisputed, and they say after the NBA Finals, that could be his last show on Undisputed. My initial reaction to that, I'm not too surprised, quite honestly. And the reason I say that is because I feel like ESPN and Fox Sports and really just a lot of these debate talking shows that we've been getting the past few years, they're becoming a thing of the past. And the main reason I think that they're becoming a thing of the past is because it's the conversation of basketball or even just sports in general, the conversations that these debate shows are having, it's no longer an actual debate. It's no longer here's my points and here's my reasoning and here's my facts and here's my, my reason for backing my claim up. It's now just become, what can I say? What's going to give me the most clicks? What's going to, put people in my comments, even if I don't necessarily believe it. I always take it back to the Western Conference Finals before it even started. And Stephen A. Smith was talking about if LeBron James loses another series to Steph Curry and Curry wins an NBA Finals, what does that mean for LeBron's career? And what does that mean for the Mount Rushmore basketball? And we'll take LeBron off of Mount Rushmore and put Steph Curry on it. Stephen A. Smith doesn't even believe what he just said. Stephen A. Smith doesn't believe that if Steph Curry would have beat LeBron and won an NBA Finals, that Steph Curry would have been on Mount Rushmore over LeBron, because when you look at the totality of their careers, there's no way you can leave LeBron off the Mount Rushmore basketball. You can't leave the all-time leading scorer off of Mount Rushmore basketball. I don't care if Steph Curry is the greatest three-point shooter of all time. You cannot leave LeBron James off the Mount Rushmore basketball. And so that's just one really of many examples that I've been seeing. And so for me, these debate shows transitioning more over to the Undisputed side of things, it was, we're going to talk about LeBron, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, we're going to talk about Tom Brady, we're going to boom, 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 boom. We're going to hit these same 3 points every day. Skip is going to talk about something that he hates about LeBron, or he's going to talk about something that he loves about Baker Mayfield or Tom Brady or whoever, and then Shannon is going to talk about how much he loves LeBron, and it was just this all the time. And so I think that a lot of these shows are going to start to end. Of course, First Take still being at the top of the rankings whenever it comes to these debate shows, but in a lot of cases, even the show with LaShawn McCoy on it, I don't even watch that show. I don't think anybody does. But it's just the fact that it's just become really just the sports media has become all about who can say the most outlandish thing. And that's something I prided myself on. Any take y'all hear from me is a real take. Anything that I say isn't for clicks. It isn't for likes. It isn't for engagement. That's something that I prided myself on. That's something that I don't think is ever going to change about me. I just want to be authentically me. That's something that I've always been, something I'm always going to be, and something I'm not going to change just for the career path that I want to head into. And so I think that it's a good move. I think that a lot of companies and a lot of these shows will start to see, maybe even switch their topics up and become, more debate focused. And I'm backing up what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, I know this, y'all know this, everything is for ratings. If I say something and it sounds outlandish, if I say that LeBron being swept automatically knocks him out of the top 5 because he's been swept 3 times in the playoffs or whatever the case, I know for a fact that's going to bring engagement from not only LeBron fans wanting to jump in my comments and say, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. It's also going to bring Jordan fans in. Jordan fans are going to be talking about, yeah, that's what we've been saying this whole time. It's going to bring Curry fans in. Well, does that mean Curry's here now? It's going to bring KD fans in, blah, blah, blah. So, everything is about ratings at the end of the day. If you're not bringing a company value, they're going to get rid of you. I don't think that was the case with Undisputed. I feel like Undisputed was the main reason a lot of people were even tuning in to Fox or FS1 or whatever channel it comes on. But now that Shannon's leaving, I wonder if he's going to go full time into his podcast or, just doing something solo, because I know Club Shay Shay is a huge thing that he's been doing for the past few years, or if he's going to try and go somewhere else, or if he just might step away from, the debate, sports talk, sports analyst side of things altogether. But really, really excited to see with that. But yeah, man, that's really all I have for you guys today. Quick episode. Again, the NBA Finals kick off tonight. If you want to keep up with me and talk about the NBA Finals while they're going on in live time, please don't hesitate to tweet me at Kalen Vasher. I will be tweeting tonight. I will be locked in watching Game 1 just like y'all. And yeah, man, really, really excited to see what happens. And I'm really, really excited to see what happens really with the entire series as a whole. Quick announcement. Might have a few interviews coming up for you guys soon. Let me know if that's something that y'all want to see. Again, with me being a former athlete, I have a lot of athlete friends or a lot of athlete people that I'm tapped in with. Been talking to a few of them to see if they would want to come on and talk a little bit of basketball. Maybe I'll have a few basketball players. Maybe I'll have a few NFL players tapped in with me. So we'll just have to see. But again, as always, for everybody listening or watching, y'all are much, much appreciated. And again, if you want to tap in with me, my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube links are on the screen as well as down below in the description. And until next time, really, y'all might see me again tonight because I might recap Game 1 tonight and then just put it up on the morning. But that's all I got for y'all today. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.